Hi, I'm Richard Rogers, and I absolutely hope that you enjoy today's spiritual message. You know, we at Unity of Phoenix Spiritual Center are committed to helping people live better lives. We're going to provide you tools over and over, spiritual tools that allow you to live your best possible life. And if you want to leave a donation to continue to allow the work that we do to support other people just like you, we say thank you. Thank you for your generosity, because this ministry is committed to making the world a better place.
So as we lead up into Thanksgiving, I've been doing this series called An Invitation to Transformation, and we have booklets. And how many of you are in small groups that focus on this invitation to transformation? Booklets are in the bookstore if you want to pick one up. The whole concept, the whole idea is that life is inviting us to transform. Now, that doesn't really seem very earth-shaking, right? How many of you have ever tried to fix yourself? Right? So the idea of fixing ourselves is not a new concept, right? Because most of us have read a self-help book of one way or another, or gone to a lecture or a lesson or whatever, and we've heard the concept that we're kind of good the way we are, but that this person can make us better. And for $9.95, you can be better, right? And it's this idea, right, that you know, that God got you about 3/4 of the way. One time I heard a lecturer say 7/8 of the way there. God got it's about 7/8 of the way there, and your ego can fix it, right? So that you can finish the job that God started. And the idea is, right, that you're good, but you're just not quite good enough. Right? That God baked you, but God's getting old, and God didn't really have all the time necessary to finish the job. And so if you just trust your ego can finish the job, right? And so that's not a strange concept for us. Like, the way I'm saying it is kind of ridiculous, but it's not a strange concept for us to think about fixing ourselves. How many of you can think of a time maybe in the last year where you really devoted some time to fixing yourself, right? And we love that concept, right? So there's this idea that this is you, right? And that if you work really hard, you can be a better you, right? And there's this other concept that says that we are created in the image and likeness of God. And what's interesting is to have those two concepts side by side, right? And how do those live together? Like, I'm good, but I'm just not quite done. But I'm created in the image and likeness of God. How do you hold both of those in the same moment, in the same sentence? Because one of them is that you're good. You're 3/4 of the way good, right? You're almost there. You're almost perfect. And the other one says you're it. You're done. And when we talk about transformation, usually what we talk about is changing this. That I'm going to have a better personality, or I'm going to have this or that, or I'm going to work on this part of myself. But the transformation that I really want us to be focusing on during this series is moving from an image of ourselves as broken to an image of ourselves as whole. From letting go of the concepts that we're not quite enough, or we're not quite good enough, or we're not quite this, or we're not quite that, to letting go of that imagery for an imagery that we were created in the image and likeness of God. That we are whole and perfect and lacking in nothing. And that godness, that goodness, that fullness of our spirit actually wants to express through us in greater and greater ways. And tonight what I want to talk about is transformative moments. And transformative moments, I have to put this away. I'm starting to get a little loopy. My talk's going to go in a very different direction if I keep that pen open for the next 25 minutes. Woo, right? So what transformative moments are is there's moments in all of our lives where we're used to operating out of our personality. We're used to operating out of our humanness. We're used to doing all the things that we do. And there are moments where our soul, our spirit, our God essence, our power kind of just says, get out of the way. Like, this moment is too important. I'm just going to put you over here for a second, and I'm going to come through, and you're going to experience the fullness of who you are in a way that is radical. And one of the underlying characteristics of one of these experiences, sometimes they're called moments of grace, one of the underlying experiences or the feeling that you have is that your personality, your humanness gets really, really calm. Because you've unleashed the fullness of you, and your personality just goes into this, oh, this is fun. This is, right? There's a deep sense of calm, even when calm wouldn't seem to be warranted, right? Even though the things around you may be really hectic or chaotic or scary, there's a deep sense of calm because you have just tapped in to the fullness of who you are. And there's this deep sense, oh, this is going to be okay. I'm okay. Like, you've just moved from, what is a power cord, 120? 110, and what's your dryer? 220, right? So you've just gone from 110 to 220, right? So the power that's moving through you is radically different. So what I want you to see, there are times when the fullness of God, the fullness of this, wants to move through you, and you just get really settled. Several years ago, I was driving up Cave Creek Highway, Cave Creek, is it whatever it is? Road, Cave Creek Road. Driving up Cave Creek Road, and just about at Joe Max, there's a dry dam, right? There's a dry dam, and there's a left turn lane, and I decided I was going to go see if I could hike across that dry, and there's a hiking trail on the other side that I could see. So I maneuver my car into the left-hand turn lane, and there's this construction truck behind me that as I move into the left-hand turn lane, he just clips the right rear of my car, and it sends my car into a spin. Now, it's about 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Cave Creek Road when there's about 1 billion cars going in both directions, right? So he hits me hard enough that my seat, the back of my seat breaks, and so now I'm flat. Of course, I'm not able to do anything because the car's spinning, and you're like, and I can't see a thing, right? I'm looking at the roof, the inside roof of my car, as my car is spinning through 2 lanes of traffic, and it stops perfectly parallel parked along the side of the road. Like, straight up swear. It's perfectly parallel parked, and just 2 feet beyond me is a 30-foot drop on the other side of the dry dam. Like, it just perfectly parallel parks. So the guy stops who hits me, and he was a very nice man. And everybody calls the police, and the police come out. And the policeman gets out of the car and says, I don't know who you are, but you are the luckiest guy I've ever met. And he said, there's no reason you're not dead right now. There's literally no reason you're not dead. And then he said, did you park your car like that? And I said, no, the seat is broken. I just got out. He said, I have never, ever seen anything like this. The fact that you were in a car accident, spun 2 or 3 times, perfectly parallel park on the other side, and that you were not hit by oncoming traffic at 4 o'clock in the afternoon is stunning. And there are moments, and you know where they are, those moments where you know that something bigger is happening through you than you can even understand. And what I want you to see over and over again is that is your real self. That is the fullness of God that is within you. And in those moments, it steps in and said, Junior, get back out of the way. I've got this, right? And your job at that moment is to allow God in that moment to be fully present. And to realize that that's who you really are. That's your essence. That's your power. How many of you have ever seen, I'm going for it. How many of you have ever seen one of the stories in the National Enquirer where it shows a woman lifting up a car because her child is underneath it? Right? Like, I remember as a little kid, right? Seeing the National Enquirer, and there was this picture of this woman in an old Chevy, and she's not really lifting it up, but the story tells that she picked up this car because a child was underneath it. She lifted up this car to pull this kid out. And it's like, how do you understand that? Like, there's really only 3 ways to understand that, right? The first way you can understand that is it's just bogus. It's just not true. It's the National Enquirer, for gosh sakes. And they have aliens the next, it's the National Enquirer, right? Or that there's this power within us that we have no idea how dynamic, powerful, amazing it is, and we're living at about 5% of our potential all the time. And when the need arises, we have this unlimited reservoir of stuff that we can draw on to move things around. That's amazing. Or the third way that we can understand it is that we have help. That there is divine assistance, that there are angels or whatever you call them, that in times of great need, that there's assistance that we can call on. And what I want you to see is there's something going on here. Right? There's just something going on here. I Googled the last couple of days, I was so taken by this image that I Googled all, and even now there's still stories. There was a story recently, last year, of a teenager. She probably wasn't even 100 pounds. And her dad got trapped underneath their car. And the car was leaking gas and it just caught on fire. And she lifted the car up and drug her dad out. She was probably 100 pounds, right? She lifted the car up, pulled her dad out, pulled him out into the yard, then went into the house and got the rest of the family out. And nobody knows how this wonderful teenager stayed so calm, did all this, and she kept saying, I was just so calm, right? And then, of course, the Psychology Today has this article on the reasons that we can lift up cars. Seriously. Psychology Today, there's an article that's scientifically why that's possible. Not that I believe it, right? But it's that human part of us that has to come up with a rational understanding how you can pick up a car. Not the whole car, but a good chunk of it, right? I don't know if you've ever tried that, but they're heavy. Right? And so over and over again, what I want you to see, right, is I'm interested in how much more of you is available in this moment, and to no longer allow just your personality and your humanness to be in control of everything. Because I know that we love to be in control. We do. We want to figure it out. We want to understand it. We want to do all the things we do. But there's a moment where Spirit just says gently, get out of the way. You need me. And you don't need me in a little way. You need me in a big way. And if you get out of the way, something amazing is about to happen. And I want you just to witness it because it's incredible. I remember a man came to me one day and said to me that his sister got him an interview for a job that he's always wanted. And he said, now I need to tell you that I've spent most of my life working against myself. He said, anytime I've got an opportunity, I'm not proud of this, he said, but I would find a way to sabotage my own success. And my sister got me this job in this industry that I've always wanted, and I've really just always had low-paying jobs, and I've just made myself, because I didn't feel worthy, and I just made myself do this. But my sister got me this job, and he said, there was something in me that I just knew that I was going to take that interview. He said, you know, this was a radically different thing. I don't do this. And he said, I got dressed, I put on a tie, I went to the interview, and I I answered the questions. And I realized, like, I was deeply calm. And I got the job. And I actually showed up the first day. And I kept showing up. And he felt like, I used to know how to be this man. And I could really do that man, but I wasn't happy as that man. I really wanted to be this guy. And I didn't know how to be this guy. But God knew how to make me be this guy, and I just kept letting God go before me to speak the words, to do what was necessary. You know, as a minister, sometimes you hear people tell their stories, and it's amazing because sometimes people share how a moment happens in their life, and they respond to it in such a different way that they know it was a God moment. I remember a woman saying to me, my husband and I were about to fight. We were about to have one more argument. We have arguments all the time. We were about to have one more argument, and this deep level of calm came over me. And I just couldn't do it one more time. He was saying all the things he used to say, and there was nothing in me that wanted to have that conversation one more time. That it was just over. And it said in that moment, our relationship changed because I wouldn't play the game anymore. And what I want you to see over and over again, that whatever's going on in your life, there's a time when we get so used to being this, so stuck in being this, whatever this version of you is, that we get so stuck in that we begin to really think that this is all we are. And there's a moment, and hopefully it's regular and often, where we actually are willing to surrender this, to give it up, to let it go so that something greater can move through us to heal, to change, to transform our lives. And that we have these moments, and the more that we're willing to let go of this, the more that we're able to really express a greater version of God. There's a line in an uncanonized gospel, the Gospel of Thomas, that says, if you give birth to that is within you, that is within you will heal you. If you don't give birth to that is within you, that is within you will destroy you. And what I want you to see is over and over again is that sometimes, because we believe that we do have free will, because we have free will, we believe that we get to stay stuck as long as we want to stay stuck. Right? We believe that we have the right to show up in whatever version of our personality we want to show up in. And yet the truth is, you're here for God. You're here to express God. And there's times when God needs to gently push you out of the way so that the greater experience of God can be made manifest. So you ready for your homework? I know you're so excited, right? So you ready for your homework? Your homework is, I want you to have a new conversation with God. And the conversation that I want you to have with God is, I want you to ask God, where am I stuck? Where am I stuck? Where am I stuck? Where am I resistant? Where am I so used to being me that I haven't opened a space for Spirit to show up in a greater way? And it's a little scary, because how many of us like to be under control? I do, right? We like to be under control. We like to know how to do it. We like to do it right. We like to feel like we get to be however way we want to be. But there's a moment where we say, thy will be done. And we really mean it. And we really allow everything in our being to become flexible to show up in a more godly way. And we can spend all of our time trying to fix our personality. And then we can actually shift from that model to a model that we're here to download the divine. And that interests me. Like, if you weren't spending all your energy trying to fix yourself, would you have more energy to download the divine? If you weren't keeping track of how you're doing with this or that, could you imagine that Spirit would know exactly how to express through you in greater and greater ways? That you're not your little personality. As adorable as your little personality is, you're not that. You're created in the image and likeness of God. And what if you were interested in giving that expression, its full space? I am ready for the glory of God. Will you say that with me? I am ready for the glory of God. Let's just say it like we mean it together. I am ready for the glory of God. Okay, so does God gotcha? Don't email me. I know it's an awkward sentence, but does God gotcha? Does God have you? Does God understand who you are, where you are, what's going on in your life? And the moment you surrender all of it to God, can God move it in ways that you can't even imagine now? And do you have a God-given right to be stuck? Yes, but, right? There's a moment where God says, enough time. And it's not really even God, it's your own soul that gets so tired of being sick and tired that you say to yourself, I'm done in my own dysfunction. I'm actually tired of being a way that doesn't work. And the moment we say that, God moves through us. God moves through us. So here's your homework. Today this week, I want you to have an honest conversation with the divine, with your own soul, with your own spirit, with God, whatever you call it, Herbie, I don't care, right? And I want you to offer up your stuck places. I want you to offer up your resistant places. I want you to offer up your controlled places. And to see if there, by chance, may be more God in you than you've ever expressed. To see how that would live, how that would feel, how that would actually begin to move in your life. And to really open the door to the next version of you that wasn't created out of your personality, but that was created out of the divine. Are you willing to give it a shot? Let's pray. I invite you to open your mind, your heart, your soul to the activity of God that is right here, right now. And we give thanks for all the moments in our life where we know that God was there. That it was greater, more powerful, more amazing than we could have ever done on our own. And instead of just being amazed by those moments, we actually surrender in a deeper way. We actually go to a greater truth. That if God can take care of those moments, what if God can take care of all the moments? What would it look like if our soul was completely in charge of our life? What if God was it? Tonight I surrender all that I am and all that I hope to be. I surrender all the images of myself as broken or less than. I give up all the old beliefs and all the old words and all the old concepts that I may fully express the glory of God. That I am here for God, 100%. I am here for God. In the name and through the power of the living Christ, we give thanks. And so it is. Amen.